centenary of the birth of Oliver Tambo, power sharing versus majority rule and a bill of rights. And that debate went on right until 1992. Dr. Buthelezi will remember it, Sheila Campbell will remember it. And the breakdown at negotiations in Progressive was basically about that. Two conceptions of the nature of our democracy in South Africa. And the support was very extensive from all over the world for the idea of power sharing between black and white. We wouldn't have then have had a commission on culture, religion and language. Culture, religion and language would have been in the institutions of government, and there would have been power sharing between different ethnic groups, basically. And Oliver Tambo rejected that approach. And I might say he got very important conceptual help from Paolo Jordan at a key moment. It's an interesting, fascinating story that needs to be more fully told. But the fact that we have the constitution we have today, I would say, was basically a result of decisions made under OR's leadership in Lusaka in the late 1980s, when he set up the Constitutional Committee. And the theme of multi-party democracy, majority rule, tempered with a Bill of Rights, was established. I've spoken about that before, I won't go into it in more detail today. But I'd like to reinforce why I feel OR played such a significant role, and that there are themes to his life and leadership that are so timely today. I can recall a very extraordinary meeting, I don't think Pianist was there, of Afrikaans writers at Lady Waterval, Victoria Falls, 1989, we still in exile, meeting with ANC intellectuals and writers. And it's extremely emotional. Ankie Croft was there. When she cried, I said she cried more than the waterfall. And she said she cried because we were speaking about home. She couldn't believe we were so emotional speaking about home. We've been in exile for 20 years, we spoke about home. And one of the questions some of the writers asked was, what's the ANC's position on gay rights? And Thabo Mbeki was there. He said the ANC's position is quite clear. There should be no discrimination against people because of their sexual preferences. What they do in a consensual way is their own business. And we're walking back to the hotel, and Paolo says to me, Paolo Jordan, you know, Thabo didn't have any authority for making that statement. It hadn't been discussed by the NEC. If it had been discussed by the National Executive Committee, we don't quite know what the position would have been. Then he used the phrase, Oliver Tambo is a natural Democrat. He would have had no problems. For him it would be a question of dignity and equality as a Democrat. And that phrase stuck in my mind. Oliver Tambo is a natural Democrat. And we all say we believe in democracy, but a natural Democrat doesn't just believe in democracy. A natural Democrat responds as a Democrat to situations as they arise. And I'm going to give 5 indications of that. First, he often used to say the ANC is the parliament of the people. That had great significance. We regarded ourselves as a revolutionary movement, preparing for the overthrow of white supremacy in South Africa. We often speak about the siege of power. The word siege had a special resonance. But he's speaking about the parliament of the people. And by that he meant it's diverse. Parliament is diverse. The ANC is diverse. It has many people. There were communists, there were Christians, there were atheists, there were capitalists, there were workers. We spoke different languages, we had different visions. And his job as a leader was to ensure that there was input and freedom of speech by everybody. And nobody should shamed or intimidated to express their views. I heard one story from a former MK combatant about difficult life in the camps, and they had real problems with their leaders, serious problems, and OR came to visit. And one young guy got up. Now I'm very African language. He's rude to you, old man. Don't come and tell us what's going on. You don't know a damn thing about what life is like. Very, very rude. People are shocked. It's something I leader. He was very calm. He goes through the business. At the end of the day, before he leaves, he said there was one young person who stood up and he used rather strong language. I want to tell everybody here, and especially security, don't touch him. If you touch him, there will be consequences. He was telling us what he felt. Maybe not in the best way. Don't touch him, I'm coming back. And if I hear that anything's been done to him, there will be consequences. Just a little example of that natural Democrat. But it went to process not simply a kind of freedom of speech. We had our conference at Kabwe. It's the old broken hill I discovered in northern Rhodesia, Kabwe. We had Zambian troops around the building in case commandos came from South Africa to take us out. We were discussing a code of conduct to ban the use of torture by the ANC. We were discussing possibilities of negotiations. And we were discussing a new leadership for the ANC. And we were discussing whether white people, Indian people, colored people could be on the national executive. And he insisted, he is not the top person who's going to say this is the way we must go. All the branches, all the areas where we had ANC presence had to discuss position papers in advance. I still remember in Maputo we discussed whether non-Africans could be on the top level of the NEC, and certain Jacob Zuma said, of course they can, but not for the president, he said. And we kind of laughed. You can't say, of course we accept the principle, but not for the president. And he kind of agreed, rather reluctantly. But we discussed it. And the question of electing the NEC came up, and people said, we must have slates. They were used to the idea of a slate. And he said, no slates. Slates are the antithesis of democracy. People get together, you support me, I'll support you, you must choose individuals. And he absolutely insisted on the secret ballot. I happened to be one of the scrutineers. It was very exciting. We were getting used to democracy in our ranks. Inside a revolutionary organization, you have a secret ballot. And it meant that certain people who were behaving in an abusive way inside the ANC were not voted in. Democracy was there not simply as a nice thing. It enabled the membership to ensure that certain people abusing their positions would not be able to stay on and carry on doing what they were doing. So now it was democracy in terms of process, but very much in terms of vision. Noah was an African nationalist. Somehow that's often forgotten. But how did African nationalism express itself? We weren't fighting for human rights. I don't like being introduced as a human rights activist. I was a freedom fighter. We were fighting for national liberation. We weren't fighting for, say, we've got a good constitution, but it's not being applied properly and some people excluded. We wanted to transform the whole society from a colonial type, white, racist, authoritarian society into a democratic society. But to achieve national liberation, to achieve self-determination, it wasn't through separation, it was through democracy, it was through the vote. The vote became the central core of our struggle. The vote meant equality, the vote meant majority rule. And majority rule then, because of the dangers of a particular party being able to ride roughshod over the rights of minorities, would be tempered by all sorts of mechanisms in the parliament, by judicial support for the constitutional principles, and by a Bill of Rights, protecting fundamental rights for everybody. That was the vision then adopted as an African nationalist, but a broad, inclusive, welcoming African nationalism, a liberatory, emancipatory African nationalism, not a narrow, inward-looking, self-regarding African nationalism. That was fundamental to his approach. Then the question of morality. He never adopted the position that we are freedom fighters, we're fighting a just cause, therefore whatever we do, if it's in the interest of destroying the racist power, it's okay. When he learned that torture was being used in the camps, set up a commission to inquire, the Stewart Commission, they reported how people were using torture against captured enemy agents. He invited me to come and work with him and the NEC to produce a code of conduct. We were freedom fighters. Freedom fighters don't use torture. We are fighting for freedom. We're fighting for humanity. We don't use torture. But it wasn't simply a decree from the top. The code of conduct had to be put to the conference, accepted by everybody, to become something belonging to the movement. It wasn't just his dictate as a liberated, forward-looking leader that was involved there. And the morality extended to everything. It was the question of people using their positions to get sex. If you wanted something in the movement, people driving trucks drunk, stabbing each other, a whole range of problems. We deal with it through legality. He was a great believer in legality, in codes, in the Constitution. It's a kind of law, an internal law for a liberation movement, which prepared us for what came afterwards. And the next point then is the question of the personality, persona, style of the leader. He was softly spoken. When the black consciousness people streamed across the borders, going out to fight for freedom, to come back with guns to fight for freedom, many of them came to Lusaka, to Angola. They saw this guy, a leader with his glasses and his briefcase and speaking like a lawyer. They saw Yusuf Dado with his pipe and his picture of Lenin up on the wall. They loved it, that revolutionary spirit of talk. And here was this like schoolmaster, lawyer, like Tambo. They turned up their noses. Within 3 or 4 years, they all loved Tambo. It came slowly. He listened to them. He was interested. He was concerned. He was thoughtful. And I think the discovery was made was sometimes soft is stronger than hard. Soft is subtle. Soft is responsive. Soft has its feelers out and picks up. Strong knows everything. Strong is certain. Strong is sure. I think every movement needs strong people and soft people. But he was definitely one of the soft people. And it had implications that went just beyond personality. One of our key debates in Lusaka, and I'll end my presentation with this, I think it's very relevant to today, was should we have a presidential system in South Africa or something more like the prime ministerial system? In other words, should we have a directly elected president and then a parliament, or should we have parliament choose the president? And at first, inside our ranks on the Constitutional Committee, there was very strong support for presidential system. African culture, tradition, strong leader, personalizing leadership. We said no. And Tambo wasn't in favor of that. We looked at our history. We used to have the Governor General, who was the Supreme Chief of Natives. That's the one despot at the top under colonialism. Then we had in the conditions of apartheid, the way Pretoria was trying to use traditional leaders as a means of dividing and ruling and encouraging them to be as authoritarian as possible. And then we had our own tradition of called political military struggle, which by its nature, clandestine underground, would be top-down. Now you take these three traditions and you put them together to create the new vision of the new president. You can forget about Parliament. We took the decision, we start with values, with the Bill of Rights, we then go to Parliament. Parliament chooses the president. The president is accountable to Parliament. And then you have the other aspects of government. Very important issues, Dr. Buthelezi will know about regional autonomy, but they had to be preceded by these other questions before we could get to those issues in terms of their own peculiar significance. And because we had the tradition of Oliver Tambo, who believed the ANC then was the parliament of the people, the idea of the leader who listened, who gave free speech, who wasn't the dominant controlling figure, was easy to accept when it came to conceiving the text of our new constitution. And we ended up with something very similar to the British parliamentary system, but with fixed periods of elections, with the president being the head of state. We don't have a queen, so there is no purpose in having a separate head of state and head of the nation, of government. But the idea of the accountability of the president to Parliament was established. And established because it was so easy to envisage people becoming presidents in the spirit, if you like, of Oliver Tambo. Not your powerful leader who depends on security and all sorts of his own sources of information for domination, control, intrigue, patronage, but a true Democrat, responsive to Parliament, Parliament in turn being responsive to the people. So I feel somehow I see a lovely connection between the announcement that was made, the Sasa matter, this idea of the legality, the basic morality that's involved, the accountability, all of these themes were really embodied in the spirit, the style of work of Oliver Tambo. Whether it was being the commander-in-chief of the military, whether it was doing diplomatic work, whether it was dealing with the problems that we had in exile and so on. There was that sense of integrity that was there all the time. And I think it's that sense of integrity that South Africa is absolutely crying out.